London is one of the busiest cities in the world. To function without collapse, it has had to develop a unique and arguably unrivaled transport system. Every day, 850,000 commuters come into London, and there are about 4 billion passenger journeys made each year.
Buses, trains, trams and cycles are at the heart of London's complex network.
These have been carefully developed over time, and as London's population has grown, so too has its transport. In this special, we'll be speaking to members of the public, an MP, a Lord, a media professional, as well as Campaign for Better Transport, to find out what London's transport system looks like in 2017.
Our system is one of the oldest in the world, with the Underground initially opening in 1863. Despite its old architecture, the intricate rail network remains one of the most efficient around. Transport for London is the responsible body and works with other providers to bring Londoners the best possible service.
There is so much to love about London's iconic transport system. Route masters, for example, are identifiable around the world and synonymous with London.
Transport in London is already quite frequent. When I go to my bus stop, the bus comes literally every minute.
It's quick, it's really accessible, to get to any place you want to go to.
I think it's actually very good what TfL do. They keep millions and millions of journeys taking place all through the year. They keep the system running on buses, on the tubes, on the overground.
Bus countdown timers. Absolutely marvellous. You're standing there every night. So I don't have a car because I'm a Londoner. You don't have a car if you're a Londoner. And so I get off the tube and there is a board that tells me when the next E1 or the next E3 is going. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely marvellous. Countdown timers on bus stops. Thank you, TfL.
According to a recent survey by the Evening Standard, transport in the city is one of the top 10 issues concerning Londoners. It is clear that while we have one of the better systems, there are major concerns that need attention to ensure that London is able to keep running smoothly. I met with Lianna Etkind from Campaign for Better Transport to discuss some of these issues.
Why are people so sick of London transport? When did this all start and what is wrong with the system?
I think many people feel frustrated that when they're trying to get out and about, going to work, going to see their family and friends, often it can mean a melee of so many passengers squeezing onto a train or a bus, having your nose pushed up against somebody's armpit, and that really isn't very pleasant to face day after day. I remember speaking to passengers who use the Crofton Park rail station, and a woman was almost in tears talking about how she'd moved to Crofton Park to get a better quality of life, but she was having to get up really early in the morning, wait for 2 or 3 trains to go by just to squeeze onto her train. She wasn't getting enough sleep. That was impacting her relationships with her family, and she was often finding herself getting tearful during the day just because of the impact of the early mornings and the horrible commutes she was facing.
According to TfL, between 2008 and 2009, 33 million people used the Overground. In 2016 to 2017, this increased to more than 189 million.
Every day, about 1 million people enter London just for work. That's like the population of a town just entering London. And as more and more people flock to the southeast because of jobs, that's going to be increasingly hard to deal with. The answer has to be about changing the way that we work. It doesn't make sense to be stuck in this 9 to 5, Monday to Friday way of working anymore. And often I think people would prefer to be able to stay near their home, whether that's in their home or in a work share space, and be able to do their work just as efficiently, just as effectively through technology without having to face that commute into the centre. Implementing part-time season tickets is a big part of that, making flexible working an attractive option for more people. And I hope that that might enable London to face the growing population with confidence without our creaking transport system collapsing.
In the capital, we spend a staggering amount of money on transport. While measures have been put in place to cap journeys and keep fares as low as possible, many people still feel frustrated at the costs.
When you hit a certain age, you start to pay for transport, and going from nothing to paying £1.50 to get on every single bus is mad. I think that the jump is a bit too much.
I think for me, the costing's it's affected me so much. Every time I have to empty out my pockets every single month or even every day to just get a travel card, it's costing over £100 for me to just get to not even far from where I live, and it's just ridiculous.
Rising fares are a massive concern for so many people when a big wodge of their wages are going towards just getting out and about on the transport system. The average cost of a season ticket into London is now around £4,000, and many of those people are not able to even sit down.
In order to save, some are considering other options. Taking shared cab services into work is becoming more popular as it can work out cheaper than TfL fares.
Do you think that the costs of London transport are extortionate?
They're certainly expensive. That's certainly expensive. And I'm very pleased that the City Car and Letting Mayor London got the 4-year freeze. So what we're paying today will be paid in 2020. That's a great help to Londoners.
We're pleased that the Mayor froze fare rises on London transport. So while across the country rail fares went up by 2.3%, people using their Oyster cards didn't pay more in 2017, and bus fares are lower in London than in other parts of the country. I think it's important that fares stay low and affordable for everybody. One area where I think TfL's done really well in working together with other transport operators like Southern and South Eastern in London is ensuring that the Oyster card can be used beyond TfL networks. Passengers who use these services that feed into the city can also swipe their Oyster cards. However, the catch is that people using their Oyster cards are still paying the fares set by South Eastern or set by Gatwick Express, and often that means paying over the odds. I'd like to see TfL take over more of London's transport network.
When tubes, trains and buses seem unattractive, often people turn to cycling. It's a great way to keep fit and is also much more eco-friendly. In 2010, a public bicycle hire scheme was introduced under Boris Johnson, the Boris Bikes. The problem is, sometimes cycling can be dangerous.
I would not cycle in London. Number one, the lanes are way too small. Do you know what amazes me? They put the smallest vehicle with the biggest vehicle. They put the buses and the bikes in the same lane, and then they expect people not to get run over.
I really do think people should start wearing helmets and stuff like that, and really know how the road works, because sometimes it's not really fair how someone has a car and have a license, and then a cyclist can just get a bike literally and just go on the road and not know anything about the roads.
I do think there should be some kind of cycling manual. All of that stuff that people have to do for cars, there should be an equivalent for bikes, so that it makes it a lot safer for people who do want to ride bike in London and get that exercise.
Cycling is a solution to many of London's transport problems and the overcrowding we face. We should be doing everything we can to encourage people to try cycling. If we insist on people having to pass tests, I think that may put people off. Rather, we should make sure that everybody has the opportunity to do free cycle training, whether that's through schools or through their employers or local authorities. The more people who are cycling on London's roads, the safer it feels for everybody to be part of that.
To reduce the risk of using a bike as a form of transport in the city, Blaze laser lights are now being fitted to London cycles. These project a bright green image of a bike onto the road so that vehicles have more time to see them coming. And safety upgrades to cycle superhighways are also taking place. But cycling isn't the only safety concern.
Do you think enough is done for those who are vulnerable on the underground and on the trains, the disabled and those with mental health?
Certainly more can be done. So I'm sure that one of the things TfL will be doing is certainly making sure that transport system is accessible to everybody.
We've got an ageing population, more and more disabled people unhappy to stay at home but want to get out, have jobs, live full lives. And when the majority of our tube stations are just not accessible to someone who can't do stairs, that is wrong and that needs to change. The Mayor needs to invest in and value door-to-door transport systems as well, like Dial-A-Ride and Taxi Car. This is often a hidden aspect of our transport system, but it is a lifeline to those people who aren't able to get to their nearest bus stop or their nearest train station. Mental health conditions are often invisible. People with mental health conditions might find travel really an anxious time, a stressful time, something that might trigger a panic attack. But that's not always clear to somebody and when they get on a carriage, in the same way that a disabled person who uses a stick or carries a white cane is obvious as a disabled person. I think a positive step in this direction is that Transport for London recently introduced a Please Give Me a Seat badge. So people who really need to be able to sit down, to have their own space, to not be squeezed up in the middle of a carriage, are able, without having to make a big song and dance and an argument about it.
It isn't just people who are affected by the system.
As we become more aware of what we are doing to our environment, many are concerned that London's transport system isn't eco-friendly enough.
Air quality in London is a huge environmental issue and also a public health issue. People who are growing up today are breathing in emissions and particulates that are going to have a long-term effect on their health of their lungs, but also their likelihood of developing conditions like heart disease or dementia in later life. Transport for London is going in the right direction in fitting out more of their buses with hybrid and electric vehicles rather than diesel vehicles. But the main solution to cleaner air in London is a modal shift, getting more people out of their cars and seeing public transport or cycling or walking as a viable option.
If I can't go to the train, I actually walk, and I think walking, is a great form of transport in London.
I'd like to see less people using cars. I think more people using city cars, more people using Ken cycles, or as they were called under the last mayor, Boris bikes, but we all know they're really called Ken cycles. Yeah, more of it. But we've also got to cut down on particulates, cut down on emissions, cut down on carbon dioxide emissions, and actually really introduce a proper clean air zone within London, not just a token one, but a real proper one. Why do lorries have to drive into the centre of London? Surely lorries should be parking up in Oxford or Luton or Watford or something, and then breaking their goods down into smaller groups, and the small, maybe gas-powered vans can then drive in with them. The idea of having a stonking great big 16-wheeler lorry crashing through the centre of London is barking bonkers. Stop it now. And bring back the canals. Why can't we put stuff on the canals? The Grand Union Canal goes from Birmingham to Regent's Park. What's wrong with that? Use the Thames even more. There's proper, sustainable, eco-friendly ways of moving things around the city, people and goods. Let's do it. I think Sadiq might actually.
I think that some of these issues around the environment in London are being looked at very carefully now. The biggest example, of course, is the interplay between cars and their engines. When a decade or so ago, everyone was focused, and this is the issue, you focus on one problem, carbon emissions, and what happened was there was a dash for diesel. That massively uplifted the amount of dangerous pollution for the likes of cyclists. Now, I'm a cyclist, I cycle through London, you feel it. I've been looking at masks. The cycle paths are amazing, but when you're cycling next to one of those massive lorries and they're spewing out diesel fumes, it does make you think. So I think it's a classic example of political classes need to think a little bit more intelligently about what they're aiming at. Sometimes you can solve one problem and cause another.
With a new political era approaching, we will no doubt see further changes to our system in each of the areas we have explored, for better or for worse.
The Department for Transport provides the Greater London Authority with a transport grant for TfL. The level of the grant for 2016-2017 has been set at £1,418 billion. When London360 contacted the Secretary of State for Transport, Chris Grayling, we were sent this message. Spending on London's transport networks benefits not just London residents but commuters and others travelling into London. Between 2015 and 2021, the government is providing £11 billion of support to TfL. This funding is helping to deliver key projects like Crossrail, the Thameslink and London Bridge improvements, and our work around airport expansion.
Making the investments that we need to London Transport is an expensive business. If you want to have greater capacity on our railways, more trains running every hour, that will require engineering and staffing and manpower. But we need to see this as an investment not just for passengers using public transport, but for everybody, because everybody benefits when we have cleaner air, less congestion, clearer streets.
It is clear that London's transport system isn't without its flaws, yet it remains one of the most iconic, reliable and impressive systems in the world. Something that Londoners should be proud of.